Good morning.
Good morning.
This is Kim,
This is Andy.
and we're going to read to you from the Urantia book. But first, we're going to read a little bit from Light the Flame by Andrew Harvey. Okay, today's May 16th, and this is by Andrew Harvey, inspired by Mirabai Starr, who is a spiritual leader in America. And I guess she was professor in world religions at Taos, New Mexico, I think. Okay. Mother, our world is burning. I will stand beside you. Together we will usher an age of peace and mercy back into the broken heart of the creation. Together we will step into the flames, and we will not be consumed. Whoa, Daenerys Targaryen.
Ooh. Yep.
Okay, wow. Okay, so the world is burning. In a way, the world is our mother, but also here she's praying to the Holy Mother outside of the world. The Divine Feminine, again, I see Harvey invoking the Divine Feminine over and over, and that's really what we need here, is to rest in the yin energy, because everybody's out there with their yang energy.
Mhm.
Everybody's got their dipsticks out and are, fighting with each other. So, but together we will usher in an age of peace and mercy. Okay, when the dipsticks get broken, yeah, back into the broken heart of creation. Yep. So there will be flames, there will be destruction, but we will not be consumed. You know, it's the dipsticks that are going to be consumed, right?
Right. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's kind of a scary but exciting time we live in. Okay, we're on paper 4. We're finishing paper 4 today. The God's relation to the universe. And we're on part 5, erroneous ideas of God. I'll go first.
Okay.
Religious tradition is the imperfectly preserved record of the experiences of the God-knowing men of past ages. But such records are untrustworthy as guides for religious living, or as the source of true information about the universal Father. Such ancient beliefs have been invariably altered by the fact that primitive man was a myth maker. Okay, so tradition is an imperfectly preserved record of experiences. Okay. So this isn't personal religious experience. Okay. This is the religious tradition. One of the greatest sources of confusion on Urantia concerning the nature of God grows out of the failure of your sacred books clearly to distinguish between the personalities of the Paradise Trinity and between Paradise deity and the local universe creators and administrators. Yeah, that's really hard. Our ancient people just lump all the God beings into one thing, and this is God. The whole thing is God. Well, there's the Paradise Trinity, and that's been really hard. Yeah. During the past dispensations of partial understanding, your priests and prophets failed clearly to differentiate between planetary princes, system sovereigns, constellation fathers, creator sons, super universe rulers, the supreme being, and the universal Father. Okay, but I don't think you can blame us for that. That was really hard.
Mhm.
It's people, I still have a hard time doing that.
There's a tendency, I think, certainly reading this book, to appreciate. No, there's not a tendency. There's an ability to appreciate the complexity of all of this, but to teach or pass on to other people this complexity is really hard. So I think there's a
Right.
tendency to simplify and then oversimplify, and
Yeah.
for the purpose of teaching.
And I always see, yeah, for the purpose of teaching, and it's about control too, because I think nefarious shamans or, preachers, if they have just a little bit of wisdom, people will come and they'll take advantage by what just covering up what they don't know into just oversimplification.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Many of the messages of subordinate personalities, such as life carriers and various orders of angels, have been, in your records, presented as coming from God Himself. Urantian religious thought still confuses the associate personalities of deity with the universal Father Himself, so that all are included under one appellation. The people of Urantia continue to suffer from the influence of primitive concepts of God. The God, the gods who go on a rampage in the storm, who shake the earth in their wrath and strike down men in their anger, who inflict their judgments of displeasure in times of famine and flood. These are the gods of primitive religion. They are not the gods who live and rule the universe.
Mm. It's
The
huge.
universes, yeah. Such concepts are a relic of the times when men supposed that the universe was under the guidance and domination of the whims of such imaginary gods. But mortal man is beginning to realize that he lives in a realm of comparative law and order as far as concerns the administrative policies and conduct of the supreme creators and the supreme controllers. So we do have, it seems like chaos, but we do have some control over some things.
We do. If we would live our lives in harmony with Urantia, we wouldn't always be caught unprepared or fly into the face of the storm, so to speak.
Yeah,
There's much that we could do to mitigate the suffering that happens here. It doesn't all have to be terrible.
absolutely right. To just learn to be peaceful people ourselves here.
Mhm.
Right. Like me with my garden, right? I
Right.
could go, now I've got an idea of who did that. Someone planted over my plants in the garden and dug up my garden plot. And I could go and like knock on that, say like, what are you doing here? I mean, I could, but no, I have to be patient. I have to be peaceful in myself. And I take that discrepancy to higher authorities, my apartment manager, right?
Mhm.
Okay. So so you have to find inner peace. That's where it all starts. And it'll ripple out from there. If enough people have that feeling of inner peace, okay,
Mhm.
and then all those systems are going to fall in line with that. But trying to change the policies, this top down thing, okay,
Mhm.
trying to change the policies of before people are really ready to live a new way. doesn't really do anything. It's got to come from the bottom and ripple up forward and out. I think I feel that.
Mhm.
Okay.
I would agree.
Okay. Okay. So you want to go here?
Sure. The barbarous idea of appeasing an angry God, of propitiating an offended Lord, of winning the favor of deity through sacrifices and penance, and even by the shedding of blood, represents a religion wholly puerile and primitive, a philosophy unworthy of an enlightened age of science and truth. Such beliefs are utterly repulsive to the celestial beings and the
Mhm.
divine rulers who serve and reign in the universes. It is an affront to God to believe, hold, or teach that innocent blood must be shed in order to win his favor or to divert the fictitious divine wrath.
Right. Oh, that's
Wow,
so
that's
true.
huge.
That's so on point for me.
Mhm.
Because, you know, yeah, I was always like, why does Jesus have to die in order for God to love us? You know what I mean?
Mhm. Right.
You know,
Why would a father do that?
why would a father do that? And, or people always say, or think that, oh, I stand against the enemies of God, whatever. I stand, you know what I mean? Because Christians like to portray themselves as victims, right?
Mhm.
We were talking about that earlier, and I'm against the enemies, and I'm not going to cave into the enemies of God. Well, you know what? God doesn't have enemies. God is too big to have enemies. Okay, maybe you have enemies, and Jesus said, "Love your enemies." Jesus loved his enemies while they were killing him. Okay, so thinking that God is that you have to defend God against some onslaught of cancel culturists, whatever, that's just ridiculous.
Mhm.
See how dumb that is?
Mhm. I know someone who once said, I depend on a judgeful, wrathful God. This is not the God I'm
That's not,
seeing here.
yeah, no. That's somebody saying like I depend on God to kill my enemies or whatever, to destroy my enemies. Well, the news is that God loves your enemies,
Mhm.
even if you can't. Okay. And you're safe. In the ultimate way, you're safe, but God wants to see how you deal with that confrontation. How do you deal with those people who hate you? Okay, do you lash out, or are you fearful? Are you can you stand there and love them even while they're cursing you?
That's a hard
That's a hard
question.
thing, but that's what God wants you to learn to do. Okay, but you depend on God to be this wrathful thing that's gonna, protect me because I'm so pure and innocent as I stand here hating my enemy and hating
Kind of
people,
means
right?
you're living your life in fear.
Yeah, you're living your life in fear, and you're really not so pure and innocent when you've got all of these thoughts of like, oh, I hate her, she's so perfect, or she thinks she's so, you know what I mean, or why does she treat me like this, you know what I mean?
Mhm.
Okay, if you're gonna keep those thoughts and depend on God to come and strike down that person who you think is offending you, you know you're not really all that pure, worth saving anyway, are you? Huh?
Right.
Right? Okay. All right, we'll keep
I'll go
going.
on. The Hebrews believed that without the shedding of blood, there could be no remission of sin. Ooh.
Hmm.
They had not found deliverance from the old and pagan idea that the gods could not be appeased except by the sight of blood, though Moses
Jeez.
did make a distinct advance when he forbade human sacrifice and substituted, therefore, in the primitive minds of his childlike Bedouin followers, the ceremonial sacrifice of animals. Wow. So that you have to shed blood to get God's favorable attention.
Like God's up there like some vampire going like, "Oh, blood! Oh, that's okay. I see blood here. What would you like?" You know what I mean? It's like, that's sick. That's dumb.
So that's an erroneous idea of God.
Right. Okay. What always gets me is the Abraham story. Okay, was Abraham before Moses or after Moses? I forget.
Before.
So Abraham was before Moses, but here they're crediting Moses with this. Yeah, I think Abraham was before Moses.
He was going to kill his son.
He was going to kill his son. But even then,
so Moses came along and said, well, we don't have to shed human blood. We can shed animal blood.
Okay, well, that's at least in advance. But yeah, they did an awful
Relatively.
thing. Yeah, relatively. But even after Abraham, because that's how I interpret that now. I used to just say, oh, like God is just playing a joke on Abraham. It's like, oh yeah, we want you to kill Isaac here. Put him on the sacrificial block here, and you need to kill him. I know he's your only kid, but yeah, you have to kill him. And then it's like, oh, gotcha, you were gonna do that, weren't you? That's like, right?
Right.
Like what a ordeal, and why would God do that? But then I looked at that and I said, maybe God didn't do that. Maybe Abraham thought for some reason he had to kill Isaac, or had an illusion that he was instructed to, and the angel came and said that you don't have to, don't do that. See?
So, an erroneous idea, don't need to shed blood.
Even animal blood, I
Right.
mean, it's blood. It's
So today we've gone beyond that. Even we don't shed animal blood now.
let's make yeah, that's right. Except when we in slaughterhouses or whatever, where they, make meat or whatever. I just want to bring, the notable exception. God likes blood, but not menstrual blood. That stuff's bad. No menstrual blood. Oh, you got that? Oh, you go away and shut yourself up in a tent until you're clean, right?
That's interesting.
Yeah. Anyway, okay, it's my turn.
Yeah.
The bestowal of a paradise sun on your world was inherent in the situation of closing a planetary age. It was inescapable, and it was not made necessary for the purpose of winning the favor of God. This bestowal also happened to be the final personal act of a creator son in the long adventure of earning the experiential sovereignty of his universe. What a travesty upon the infinite character of God. This teaching that his fatherly heart, in all its austere coldness and hardness, was so untouched by the misfortunes and sorrows of his creatures that his tender mercies were not forthcoming until he saw his blameless son bleeding and dying upon the cross of Calvary. Okay, that's pretty, to me, it all seems so backwards, the whole crucifixion thing. It's like, what? You're going to kill my son? I'm God. You're going to kill my son, and then now that's going to make me be nice to you?
Right.
Right?
It never did make much sense to me.
The whole resurrection crucifixion thing. Well, resurrection is nice. Okay, he comes back. Okay, I'm glad, but that doesn't put the whole thing just went past me, you know.
It's like almost backwards. It's like God is shedding the blood of his son to gain the favor of man. What?
It's got to be something twisted, like, okay, God likes blood to begin with, but I like my son's blood even more. So if you're going to give me my son's blood, yeah. So the better your people are, the more you should kill them. And that's kind of what they did. They picked their smartest people for sacrifices, and their most beautiful maidens. They'd pick the most beautiful ones, the best ones, you know.
Right.
And in a way, it might have been too because the most beautiful people, the most beautiful children, they would cause envy and jealousy among the tribes here, right?
Mm-hmm.
But that's such a negative way to look at that. And that's, culling out the most positive genes from your gene pool,
Mm-hmm. Right.
But yeah, they did that. They didn't, well, then later they decided, well, like the Aztecs, we'll slaughter the prisoners. We'll just go over to that other village and, round up some of those for sacrifice to the gods and stuff.
Right.
They did that.
Primitive religion.
But this whole idea doesn't make a lot of sense from an intellectual standpoint at all.
Oh.
Okay. But the inhabitants of Urantia are to find deliverance from these ancient errors and pagan superstitions respecting the nature of the universal Father. The revelation of the truth about God is appearing, and the human race is destined to know the universal Father in all that beauty of character and loveliness of attributes, so magnificently portrayed by the Creator's Son who sojourned on Urantia as the Son of Man and the Son of God, presented by a divine counselor of Uversa. Okay. Marvelous. Anything else you want to talk about?
That pretty much sums up the erroneous ideas of God.
Yeah. But you see how primitive people were so distraught and they were so afraid. Yeah. And they wanted control over their lives because they were subject to famines and storms and all kinds of horrible things. And they were, they had no way to be safe.
Right.
So they were striving to find some way they could bargain with God. Okay, I'll kill one of my kids if you keep the other one safe. Of course, there's no dealing. Yeah, but that's what they thought they were doing. That if they killed this one, well, at least then the other three will be safe.
Well, it reduces your relationship with the divine to a transactional slot machine using blood coins, I guess.
Right. Yeah. But see, they didn't
get out of it what you want.
They didn't understand that. But you got to understand they're coming from this place of just dire need. Because they need to have some control over these events. They need to believe that it's not just haphazard and that I can, depend on something. They need to believe that. So then in order to believe that, in order to function, they need to have this belief that they have some control. In order to gain that control, they did these awful things.
I think it's hard in our first world experience here to get our mind around that because mostly people have everything they need now.
Yeah.
And mostly people are kind of insulated from the worst disasters, mostly.
Mostly. Unless you live on the coast. Yeah. Okay. Well, we're going to stop. Okay. Thank you for joining us.
Have a great day.
Okay. Bye. See you
Bye.
next time. Next time.